Good day and welcome to another broadcast of Venture Capital Fund. Today we are going to be looking at a pretty interesting subject matter. We're going to be looking at debt life cycle reduction strategies. So if you're in business or if you have a home mortgage, uh, we are going to be talking about a number of important issues that you should understand in terms of to be able to mitigate that debt. In the private sector, depending on which part of the world you're at, we continue to hear that the cost of capital is high, particularly so in the Caribbean countries. And in the programs that we're going to be looking at today, today's initiative is really going to help you to understand how to create debt, regardless of the high interest rates, and how to mitigate debt, regardless of the high interest rate. We'll also be talking about a number of interesting issues that we see the American government is doing and that perhaps developing economies can also adopt as a means to stimulate private sector development and to make a strong impact on social and economic development. So in the event that you're joining me for the first time, I simply want to say that my name is Gary Thompson. I'm a business development consultant by profession. I'm a humanitarian by nature, and I'm the multiple best-selling author for several books, including Billionaire Codes and Manager's Toolkit. These two books are already bestsellers, so I want to encourage you to log on to our website, which is our sister company website, which is www.megamoneygy.com. Navigate the front page. You will be able to see the book. You can purchase the book online. You can also subscribe to our website, so you will get all the daily uploads that we're going to be making on issues relating to private sector development, business development. When you navigate the front page, you will see subscribe to newsletter. Just enter your name and email address, and you will be automatically getting information on a regular basis that we are putting out from Venture Capital Fund, Venture Capital Inc., Global Branding and Marketing. In the event that you're looking at this program for the first time, you have never liked or subscribed, you find the content interesting, I want to encourage you to give us a like and subscribe to the program so you will be the first to get these programs on a daily basis that we are bringing to you. And of course, our content is for the private sector. We focus on critical issues that are designed to really leapfrog private sector organization and make them more competitive in the local, regional, and international market. So welcome once again to today's discussion. Today we're going to be looking at debt lifecycle reduction strategy. This program comes to you with the kind compliments of Global Branding and Marketing, Venture Capital Inc., and Mega Money Media. Just below is one of our sister companies' website, which is www.megamoneygy.com. In today's program, again, we are looking at debt lifecycle reduction strategy. Our table of content today is going to begin by looking at corporate debt defaulters, prevention strategy. We'll be looking at a unique system that the US government has developed, which we call the PPP initiative. We'll also be looking at how that program can impact the private sector. We'll be also looking at home mortgage foreclosure. We have a lot of that could have been taking place. A lot of it has been averted. We see some of the systems that again the American government would have, and how the PPP program that the American government would have started would have had some positive impact on that. So we'll go into that today. We also be looking at small business startup dilemma. Again, we'll be looking at how the PPP program would have impacted these players in business. Now, along with this, we're going to be looking at debt management analytics, and it's important for you to do your debt management analytics long before you create that debt. So we're going to be looking a little bit at some of these issues. We will also be looking at bank loan analytics. In most cases, when you go into the bank, whether it's a investment commercial bank, and whether it's a commercial bank or an investment bank, in most cases, you tend to see the capital gain. But to do the full analytics to see the impact it's going to have on your business and your ability to fully cash flow that debt, and you're not doing that. So we'll look at some of that today. Now, along with this, we're going to be looking at some pretty interesting topic that we call the debt to asset ratio, debt life cycle reduction strategy. And here is where you're going to be given some new groundbreaking information as to really how some smart people are, creating debt management portfolios to help them mitigate their debt portfolios, allowing them to gain the equity in the asset much earlier, allowing them to bring, early equity leverage, greater cash flow to really scale and diversify their business. So we look at some of that today. Along with this, we're going to be looking at benefits to financial sectors and other stakeholders. Now, again, a lot of what we're going to be saying may sound at some point as though we're going against the commercial financial sector. I'm not saying that we are doing that. I'm not saying that we're going against that, but I'm saying that what we're going to be simply be talking about today, it's going to benefit even the traditional financial institutions that so many businesses across the world continue to complain about. And of course, I do believe that they have legitimate reasons to be complaining about some of the policies of the commercial financial sector. We're not going to dig deep into that today, but we're going to be talking around the subject matter. So welcome once again to today's program. We're going to start our discussion by looking at what we call the corporate debt defaulters analytics. I'm not going to go deep into this analytics today. I'm just going to say that the American government has developed a very, very unique policy that we call the PPP program. And what exactly is the PPP program? It's what you call the Paycheck Protection Program. And what that Paycheck Protection Program does, once you're a business entity and you have less than 500 employees within your workforce, this program automatically kicks into you. And the American government, I think, have allocated in excess of 350 billion US dollars that they are literally putting into the hands of small businesses and to really help them to navigate the negative realities that the world is currently faced with because of COVID-19. So that PPP program, the Paycheck Protection Program, allows an individual business to cash out up to 10 million US dollars. That's about 1 billion GYDs, and to really help to keep that business sustainable. Now, those funds can be used to pay staff salaries, to pay rent for the companies, to help in the restocking of the operation and keep the operation going. So this is just one unique system. And I'm saying to you that in the absence of this being implemented by the American government, you would have seen much, much more companies, businesses that would have fallen into the red, would have fallen into defaulter status. And those businesses would have been shut down, and hundreds of thousands and millions of employees would have been left on the breadline. So this is a very unique strategy that was implemented by the United States government that they call the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program. Now, this again has also cushioned some of the negative effects that could have been realized with home mortgage, because many of the homeowners, they are working too. And because hundreds of thousands and millions of people would have been laid off because of COVID-19, their cash flow would have dried up, and certainly would have put them in the red again in terms of being able to honor their monthly obligation. I must also recognize some of the positive things that has been taking place in the Caribbean. And the Caribbean, we have been talking about moratorium, and many companies, many homeowners, I know would have been benefiting from this. All right, so along with this, I want us to talk a little bit more about small business dilemma Many small businesses, as I would have said earlier on, if you're a business owner and you have less than 500 employees, you become a primary uh, beneficiary of the PPP initiative. I want to talk a little bit outside of this. Across the world, we are seeing small businesses are going through a dilemma. You know, within the first year, we see over 20% of those business startups that are failing. Within 5 years, we're seeing over 50% of those businesses are going under. For us at Venture Capital Fund, Venture Capital in Global Branding and Marketing, we are pretty much concerned about this because the fact that we are seeing that the inability to access adequate capital, again, this is dependent on which part of the world that you're at. In the developed world, we have very responsive government system to stimulate business activities, to stimulate the economy, to stimulate social development, which is good. We need to certainly have a whole host of this, much more of this happening in developing economies. And there are a number of strategic things that can be done between government and between public-private partnership and to really give businesses the kind of support that they really need to grow and to help to stimulate and fast track, leapfrog the national economy. One of the things that I did point out here is the inability to access adequate working capital. This is, again, one of the reasons why we see certain types of businesses are going under. In our system, where we talk about the commercial financial sector, we talk about the investment financial sector, we also talk about smart capital market. We talk about these issues because depending again on which part of the world that you're at, we find that there are many businesses that depend wholly and solely on the commercial financial sector. And we talk a little bit about that. So it's not about, in our program, we talk about smart capital market and your ability to tap into the smart capital market, to leverage the smart capital market. It's a big difference between paying back the principal balance and paying interest on that and paying dividends. You understand much about the smart capital market. Here is where you can enter the market, you can build a relationship with the market, you can introduce your brand, you can scale your business by this strategic intervention. You don't have to pay back principal nor interest, you don't have to pay dividends. We'll look at some of that a bit later on. Some of the other reasons why we see businesses are going under, the high cost for capital is not only the access to capital, but when you get access to it, the high cost of it, again, depending on which part of the world that you're at. We are looking at all these issues, and the reason that we're going to be looking at debt life cycle reduction strategy is that when the cost of capital comes at a high cost, with the knowledge that we're going to be giving to you, you are still supposed to be in a position of trying to take that debt as a high cost. I'm not saying in all cases it's fair, but you would have the information to significantly reduce that cost. So let's take, for example, you might be taking a debt at 16% per annum. With the debt weapons that we're going to be showing you, the debt leverage that we're going to be showing you, perhaps you can bring down that debt cost to about 7%. All right, so we're going to be talking about some of that today. The other reason that we are seeing is that the inability to manage debt, and that's exactly what we're talking about today. And most people take a debt, and most people, put the accounting principle in terms of managing that debt, and I want to give you tremendous kudos for that. But that has only taken you this far. You continue still to complain about a high cost for capital. In our system, we'll be showing you some smarter ways of doing it, and I'll give you some practical examples of that now. One of the things that we do at Venture Capital Fund, Venture Capital in Global Branding and Marketing, is that we do what we call the bank loan analytics. What exactly do I mean by doing the bank loan analytics? In this debt management system, we certainly, one of the first things that we do is start to analyze the bank loan analytics. What do we mean by this? It simply means that There are certain pre-qualifications for you to get to look at before you actually start thinking about taking out a bank loan. And what are those pre-qualifications? I'm going to say this because, again, I'm seeing that many young entrepreneurs, many small businesses tend to get frustrated when you go to the bank and you cannot reach the pre-qualification, perhaps because you are learning about these pre-qualification criteria for the first time. But what are the pre-qualification that we're talking about? Step one, you need to have a positive bank balance. So if you need to borrow $20 million from the bank might ask for 10% equity in the investment that you're asking for. That simply means that you need to have about $2 million in your bank account, and you need to have legal fees to process that application in the event that there's going to be some favor that is going to be given to you. That's pre-qualification 101. The next thing that you need to have positive cash flow, which means that most commercial bank will not give you capital for a business startup. Yes, they're going to look at your financials and your financial protection, but they are not necessarily people who are going to be prepared to take that risk with you. So you need to show a fair degree of positive cash flow. And in most cases, when you cannot do this, it means that you're not living up to the pre-qualification criteria. In many cases, you're wondering why the bank is not supportive of you. The commercial bank operates at a different level in the investment financial sector. So the second pre-qualification criteria that we've looked at here is positive cash flow. Third pre-qualification criteria is something that we're going to call your credit score. Again, we see a lot of entrepreneurs today, small entrepreneur. In my experience, many of them that you're talking to have never heard about credit score and the importance of having a solid credit score. Now, let me give you just a brief example of this. Now, you may go places and take out credit. In the absence of taking out credit, you may have light bill, telephone bill, and even your rent. In some parts of the world, they can trace you from every single bill that you have. They can dig in and do the analytics and see how you're managing your debt. So what a credit score simply means, it means that we have an institution that are managing, that are monitoring how you're creating debt and how you're managing your debt. And that is created as a database. That database is commercialized by selling that information to businesses that may want to do business with you. And when they can look at your credit score and to see that you are a bad paymaster, they can leverage that information against you. So this is a pre-qualification that you have to be aware of when you're going to the commercial financial sector to access funding. In our portfolio, we continue to talk about the fact, and we're happy to hear that there are some of those policies in place where your personal score, credit score, is different from your corporate credit score. Later on, we will look at that, but credit score is something to look at. In our system, we also recognize and we advocate that age do matter because the latitude that a 25-year-old entrepreneur is going to get in terms of the life cycle of the debt is not the same latitude that a 49-year-old entrepreneur is going to get in terms of dealing with accessing fund. Depending on the life cycle of your debt, depending on your age will influence the life cycle of the debt, and depending on the life cycle of your debt, it will influence the monthly payback amount that you have to make to the bank. And these are important information that you need to have when you are leveraging the commercial financial sector. Absolutely necessary important information for you to have. In the absence of having this information, is what is going to make you a little bit more frustrated when you're not achieving desired results. The last one that I'm going to look at here is what we call collateral. Having a little bit more collateral certainly will not hurt. It's going to help to influence the potential investor that you have enough sweat in the game, you have enough equity in the game, and that's going to help to boost up some of their encouragement and motivation to want to help. Now, so when you're being turned down by a financial institution, it's important for you to know this. In most cases, the financial institution may not necessarily go through all of this because, as simple as it is, it may be technical information for the average person to understand. This is again one of the reasons why you should get a professional PFA on your side, a personal financial advisor, a professional financial advisor that can really help you navigate these financial terrains when it comes to doing business. Now, let's go straight into the belly of the beast right now. So you go to the commercial bank, unless you get past the pre-qualification criteria, and the bank has now agreed to allocate $20 million to you to really get your business off the ground. So you were happy, you were saying hip, hip, hooray, you've made, the positive impression on your financiers, and you get access to $20 million. But you can't stop here. There is something that we call your interest rates, and you need to know it. So you get the money from the bank, which is you call your principal balance. So you have a principal balance of $20 million, and you have an interest rate, an annual interest rate of about 10% per annum. Now, what exactly is this saying to you? And again, what we see is that many persons stop here. You don't do the analytics to really understand exactly what this is actually saying. So what we're going to attempt to do today is to analyze this as to ensure that you have a clear working mental picture in terms of what exactly is happening here and things that you should be aware of. Now, in doing this bank loan analytics, the next thing that you need to look at is something that we call the debt life cycle, because the debt life cycle will ultimately influence the cost that you're paying for that debt, and you need to know this. Now, in this case, the debt life cycle, as shown on screen, is 20 years. What exactly does that mean to you? So as we go deeper into the analytics, you're going to get that kind of information. Let us do the debt cost breakdown. You're going to have a monthly payment to the bank. So you take a loan of $20 million, your 10% interest rate, the life cycle is going to be 20 years. So based on the life cycle, a specific amount can be calculated that you're expected to pay back on a monthly basis. We haven't used a scientific calculator on this. This is based on assumption, but I want to show you very close to accurate assumption based on our experience with practical programs that we have in the market right now. So you take a debt, $20 million, call your principal balance. Your monthly payback on that is about $167,000. On a yearly basis, your annual payback is going to be $2 million. Now, over the life cycle of the debt, here is where it gets interesting. Over the life cycle of the debt, you're going to be paying about $40 million. And I could recall not so long ago, I was doing a presentation and a young man asked me, how are we doing the calculation on this? And I want to say it's a very simple calculation. You calculate your interest rate, and if you take a debt of $20 million, the interest rate is 10%. 10% of 2 million, 10% of $20 million is $2 million per year. So a simple way of doing this, you have to calculate $2 million per year over 20 years, and how much money you come up with, $40 million. So it's a simple approach in doing the analytics here. But do you really understand what this is actually saying? What this is saying is that the debt principal is $20 million, and the debt cost is $20 million. So what is simply saying that you're taking $20 million from a financial institution based on a 10% interest rate, and you're paying them $20 million plus $20 million in that. So you're paying about $40 million in that. Now, the average person is going to be asking, but that's a lot of interest rate that you're going to be paying. I'm not here to tell you if it's good or bad. I'm here to tell you that there's a way in which you could actually reduce this cost. So you're paying $20 million. That's the cost of the debt. And the question you're going to be asking, can this be reduced? What if this can be reduced to, let us say, about $10 million? So instead of paying back $20 million, you pay $10 million back to this. How possible is this? I want to say in the developed world, it is legal and it is quite real to make this happen, but in most cases, because in the developing economy, there's not much conversation in terms of debt mitigation strategies and debt life cycle reduction strategies. There's not much attention that is given here. So what happens, you allow certain elements of that debt loan to run its course, and once it runs its course, you are obligated to be saddled with this. Later on, we will go into some of the more technicalities, but the question is answered here. Is there a way to mitigate this debt cost so as to reduce the cost that you're paying for this debt from 20 million to about $10 million over the debt life cycle? And I'm here to say to you, it's possible. I'll talk about some of those possibilities as we go a little bit into the more into the program today. So moving on, let's start to look at some of the systems that can be used to mitigate debt. Some of these systems are very new. It's what we call the debt to asset ratio, debt life cycle reduction strategy. What exactly do I mean by this? It simply means that you have to become very innovative. There are a lot of innovative tools that are used in the developed world in terms of mitigating debt. Not much of it is used in developing economies. For example, we have developed a new system that we call performing asset debt reduction strategy. Now, what exactly is performing asset? A performing asset is an asset that cash flows, and performing asset is an asset that pays you. I will not go into all of the example. When you come into our master class, we're going to help you to better understand how to design and how to leverage this. But performing asset is an asset that's going to pay you, and you don't necessarily have to work too hard in terms of have the asset cash flow. Now, you leverage these cash flow in a very unique way in mitigating debt. This is one system that you can actually use. It has been proven, it has been tested, and it can really help you to bring down your debt cost from 20 million to about 10 million over the life cycle of your debt. Several other things is going to be happening with the system itself that we're going to be exposing you to. The other system that we're going to talk about here very briefly is something that we call wholesaling debt reduction strategy. If you have ever done real estate in the developed world, you will know what is wholesaling. Wholesaling is where you're positioned as a middleman with a prime asset, and you know the prime buyers, and you're able to do a genuine trade transaction that allows cash flow. The excessive cash flow can be leveraged against your portfolio. Those are things that we will go deeper into when you're in the masterclass programs. You have something else that we call the smart capital and debt leverage. I'll give you a very vivid example very shortly. The smart capital debt leverage is something that we think that small businesses can use. In fact, all businesses can use it. And I'm going to be showing you and giving you an example as to how you can really leverage this smart capital debt leverage system to get out of debt, to create capital, to scale your business with local, regional, and international relevance. And smile to the bank or smile to your investor. You know, go to the bank or go to your investor with a big smile on your face. Quite possible. We also have another system that we call the asset equity appreciation debt reduction strategy. And here's where this is going to be kicking into something that you call the HELOC. What is a HELOC? HELOC is a line of credit in the financial term. We call it the home equity line of credit. We also have a BELOC, which we call the business equity line of credit. There are very strategic ways in which we can extract the equity and asset. We can up-level that equity by using HELOC and BELOC and create new cash flowing machines for your operations. We also look at land banking and debt leverage. And It is something that I've recognized that a lot of young innovative entrepreneurs, even in the Caribbean, they are beginning to use these techniques. I don't know how fully aware they are of it, but yes, they are using it. Not necessarily to mitigate debt, but it can also be used to create wealth. In the developed world, it is very much at work. And what happens, you find young entrepreneurs who are in the real estate market, they have their ears to the ground, they know where development is taking place, they know where development is gonna be taking place down the road. They cash in on all of that, hold an asset, acquire an asset, which we call an asset acquisition, asset protection, and asset leverage. And that whole process, can be leveraged to generate funds. As you can see, I'm skating through this here, but we're going to go deeper into all of this with our masterclass program. All that we have looked at here today, the proposed debt asset ratio, debt life cycle reduction strategy shows how to reduce your debt costs, build performing asset portfolio, and increase financial leverage for your business. All right, these are proven systems that we will be talking to you much more about when you get into our masterclass program. I trust you would have enjoyed that. There's one thing I didn't mention here is what we call the velocity banking debt leverage. We'll talk much more about that later on. So a quick example as to how this works, the Smart Capital Market Capitalization. That's a very unique program that we have designed, Smart Capital Market Capitalization. And here is where you really invest your time, your talent, and your resources to build what we call a quality contact sales funnel. What is a quality contact sales funnel? The way that we see this working is that your QCSF is you identify your specific target market and you invest your time, talent, and resources to build up network with that quality contact list. There are a number of techniques that we're going to be showing you how to use this. But let us suppose that you know your specific target market and you're able to attract 1,000 persons to your target, to your quality contact funnel. And you are able to cash flow each one of your network of about $500 US. What it simply means is that you can cash flow approximately $500,000 in US dollars in one step by just building what we call your quality contact sales funnel. Now, converting this into Caribbean dollars is a whole lot of money that we're talking about. This is very close to a million US dollars. 500,000 US dollars in GYD is 100 million GYD that we're talking about, and think about what you can do with this to really scale your business with local, regional, and international relevance. So these are some of the technical areas of training that we get into with you to really help you to get a better understanding as to how to navigate the financial market, to really access funding in the interest of scaling your business, your ideas, your brand with local, regional, and international relevance. So 1 million GYD can take you very, very far away with your business operation. All right, so in our program, we help you to understand what is good debt, what is bad debt. I could also recall not so long ago, I'm talking to a top senior business person, and we talked about debt, and I talk about good debt and I talk about bad debt, and my good friend said to me, debt is debt. Is there a good debt or a bad debt? And I said, wow, this is pretty interesting because this is someone that I truly look up to. And I had to make it clear that, debt becomes bad because when you have to go into your personal income, when you have to go into your pocket and you have to cover that debt, it becomes a bad debt. When you understand how to cash flow your debt in a way that the debt is being leveraged in such a way to put monies in your pocket to cover the cost of the debt, and it is paying you, it becomes good debt. And we even went through the process of saying that there's a way in which you can understand whether you are taking a debt, if it's going to be a bad debt, and some simple things that we go through with you when you come into our program. We look at your income projection, your expenditures, we look at your NOI, net operating income, we look at your ROI. Along with all of this, we do something that we call your market analytics, because many persons create debt without even understanding what is the market analytics. You need to understand all of these things when you're getting into the market, because if the market is not accommodating, if the market is not enabling, you're going to have some tremendous challenges in that market. And these are things that you need to know long before you start to create that debt. So these are some important things that we get into with you to really help you to understand how to reduce the cost of your debt and how to really mitigate debt cost. We're coming close to the end of today's program, and I want to look now at the benefits to financial sector and other stakeholders. As I said at the beginning, this program, we believe that we are rolling out, can bring tremendous benefits to not only the private sector, but it can bring tremendous benefits to even the financial institutions, who is also a part of the private sector. Now, what we see here is that early debt payment, because the systems that we are using, it can help the debtors to mitigate their debt much earlier, to pay off their debt much earlier. And just think about this. You go to the commercial bank, you take out the debt, and you're now working with an institution that understands how to mitigate debt, and they work with you to show you system how to reduce the cost of the debt and to pay off your debt much faster. Should that be looked at as a bad thing in the eyes of the financial institutions? That depends. One, we believe that the financial institutions should say that this is credit-worthy because you borrow debt, you pay it off faster. We are more encouraged to work with you because you're working with a credible system that can really help you to mitigate debt and minimize their risk of lending to you. So that's one way in which you can look at it. The other way, perhaps if you're greedy enough, you can probably say, okay, but you're cutting into my revenue, because here is where you chop $10 million from Tom Jones Payne by helping him to understand what is debt life cycle reduction strategy. I think that's a greedy way of looking at it, because the other way in which we can look at this also is that if you're able to pay off the debt 10 years earlier, it means that the bank, the financial institution, will have more equity, liquid cash in their hands to allocate to more businesses. And this process continues for a long period of time. What happens here? Instead of helping one business over a life cycle of 10, 15, 20 years, perhaps you can be helping 4 businesses and increasing your cash flow because of the increase in lending, because of the trust now, confidence that you have in the borrowers to pay, because they are now working with a financial institution, that understand finance, how to mitigate debt to pay you off much faster. So we think that there's going to be some advantages and some disadvantages, but we believe that the advantages significantly outweighs the disadvantages. And we are really trusted that we can partner even with commercial financial sector and the investment financial sector to ensure that we can work with businesses, we can give businesses the advice and technical support that they need to take their business, their ideas, their brand to a whole nother level. To integrate their ideas into regional, local, and international markets to really help to leapfrog their businesses and leapfrog the economy. We believe from our vantage point, the economy needs this kind of public-private partnership and private sector partnership to really keep the economy moving at a certain pace. Again, we believe it's going to free up more liquidity to support business development. I've said that before, so I'm not going to re-emphasize it, but we believe that receptive to greater risk in lending, of course, we believe that the financial institution can be more receptive to take risk because of the fact that you have a financial expert, a marketing expert that is working with businesses to navigate the world of business. Now, remember what I talked about earlier. To create a debt, to manage a debt is not just about doing your income projection. It's not just about doing your expenditure projection. It is not just looking at your net operating income and your ROI. You must be able to do your market analytics, and doing your market analytics is what will tell you if you're dealing with a hostile or a friendly market. It will basically position you, once you know what you're doing, to get your guarantee buyers perhaps long before you actually take out the debt. So that gives you a greater negotiation position when you're dealing with financial institutions. These are all things that we are proposing to work with the potential borrowee when they're coming to your institution. Of course, this will help to reduce the risk in lending and help to give businesses a better fighting chance. We believe also it will increase the annual profit for all stakeholders. One, we know for sure the reduction of your debt cost by $10 million, $10 more million you have in your pocket to leverage in your business development. We also believe that because there's going to be a change in attitude, more risk in terms of lending, which is not so much a risk because you have the expert on the side that's going to be working with you. There's going to be more lending out there, because you're going to have more lending by the commercial financial sector. You're going to have more profit coming in. We continue to hear that there's excess liquidity in the financial sector, and we certainly believe that our system can help you to really put those monies out there and really understand that there are entities and institutions that are really working with you to better mitigate the debt challenges. Faster growth in the economy, we are certain about this, more business startup. We have just said in the United States of America alone, because of the COVID-19, the American government have allocated in their PPP, Paycheck Protection, program, over 350 billion US dollars they have allocated to this program to stimulate business activities, to keep business alive, to really help to move the economy forward, keep the economy going. And we believe that what I'm saying here is going to have a tremendous impact on that. Business growth, diversification, expansion, definitely. Reducing the cost of capital can certainly increase the entrepreneurial spirit that you're going to find in the entrepreneurs, to want to borrow more, to want to take greater chances to expand. But when we talk about taking greater chances to expand, we're talking about sensible chances, because you're working here with an institution that's going to be working with the clients to really help them to understand their market, understand their market size, understand market density, dispersion, and understand the market realities by looking at the SWOT analysis and by looking at the PEST analysis to really help businesses to make an informed and educated decision. Long before they get into that market, long before they start making any form of investment into those markets. So this new program that we're bringing out here, we believe is going to have all of these positive impact on business and reduction in the mortgage foreclosure. It really hurts my heart when I receive calls from clients that say, we have been paying our mortgage for the last, 3, 4, 5 years. And I can recall not so long ago, we received a call from a guy that does mining. He's in the gold industry. And of course, you understand the fluctuation in that market. And we took a hit for a period of time. And for just about 3, 4, 5 months, they were somewhat, on shaky ground, and they had the foreclosure letter. Now, within 5 years, that asset would have appreciated. Now, the asset is not your asset, it's your liability. Later on, we'll talk about that from an accounting standpoint. So we now have to start thinking how we can work with this individual to mitigate the process. So I literally help, because we have to now send them over to some of our, real estate brokers and, tell them what to do and have them intervene and mitigate that challenge. So if even the bank move ahead with that foreclosure, the bank are committed to that. There are stakeholders that could have taken out that debt. There are stakeholders that could have put that asset to the market cash flow, pay off the debt, and the client would have still had some liquid cash in their hands to move around with. It really hurts when I see these things happen, perhaps because I have the humanitarian, way in how we manage our business. But we believe that the system that we're going to be proposing can help so much of families out there. The last thing that you want to do is to invest hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars of your hard-earned money into any form of assets, whether it's residential real estate or commercial real estate, and for known or unknown reasons, those things go to waste. This again is one of the reasons why I continue to emphasize that the time for you to start working with a professional PFA, a professional financial advisor, to get a personal financial advisor to help you navigate through the world of finance, through the world of business, is now. You don't wait until you get into problem and then you need these players. Sometimes it could be too late. You need to get the right advice on your side now. All right. So reduction in corporate debt defaulters, this happened too. Not so long ago, we are following, the good conscience of a bank. One of their clients was going through a crisis, and what the financial institution did, and I want to give them some kudos for that. They invited the individual to do a refinancing, and the refinancing simply take away all the existing debt, restart the life cycle of the debt, and they work with that client. So I'm seeing some good things happening within the financial institution. I'm not saying that it's all bad. I know the private sector, are very, much perturbed about the realities with the financial institution. I feel your pain. I think at the end of the day, it's about us understanding how we can create win-win relationships, how we can create symbiotic relationship between the private sector and the financial institution, to really identify innovative, creative ways in which we can work together, bring down interest rates, access to more funding, access, to greater opportunity to grow and diversify and expand your business with the relevance of looking into regional and international market. That will be a unique platform to really leapfrog businesses, leapfrog the economy, and certainly help to bring down poverty that we have in the country so far. So the programs that we are offering, all this debt life cycle reduction strategy, is going to have so much of positive impact on the private sector directly, and so much of indirect sectors. So I trust you would have enjoyed today's program. This program came to you with the kind compliments of Global Branding and Marketing, Venture Capital Inc., Mega Money Media. Remember to log on to our sister company website, which is www.megamoneygy.com, to learn more about what we do. And you can subscribe to this website. You can, on the front page, you will find subscribe to newsletter. When you do that, you just enter your name, your email address, and you will be given an opportunity to get all the daily updates that we're going to be bringing to you. So it has been a real pleasure being with you today. I trust you would have enjoyed today's program. We look at debt life cycle reduction strategy. We believe that this is certainly a unique program for businesses. And at Venture Capital Fund, Venture Capital Inc., Global Brand and Marketing, we are certainly looking for partnership with the wider business community and financial institutions. We are doing this in some parts of the developed world, and we are now trying to build a strong footprint within the Caribbean. Again, my name is Gary Thompson. I'm a business development consultant by profession. I'm a humanitarian by nature, and I'm the multiple best-selling author for several books, including Manager's Toolkit and Mega Money Media. I know I had your time long, so I don't want to push it too much. I want to thank you for spending this time with me, and remember to feel free to reach out to us at Venture Capital Inc., Venture Capital Fund, Global Branding and Marketing. We have a team of professional financial advisors, PFA, personal financial advisors, economies, accountants, and business consultants that has over 75 years of combined experience, who are willing to go to work for you to really help you to leapfrog your business and your ideas with local, regional, and international relevance. So feel free to reach out to us for a free consultation. We are waiting and happy and excited to engage with you. remember it's COVID-19. Do observe the COVID-19 protocols within your countries, and keep yourself safe and protect your family. Put safety above everything else. So be blessed, and I see you on the other side.